the flu.
Okay, we ready to roll?
Ready to go.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's March 29th, 2016. It says 15 on my page, but
Oh, look at that.
we'll say 2016. First thing I want to do is have a moment of silence for one of our colleagues from the town of Yarmouth, Councillor Ken Langell, that passed away, I think yesterday, unexpectedly. So we'd have a moment of silence for one of our colleagues. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to number 2, approval of the agenda. Anybody care to move the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have any additions?
Yes, there is an addition. I'd like to add, a line item, for, the issue currently going on with, the Cusk, fish, a type of fish species that, is currently being debated for being endangered. So I'd like to add that to, I guess that would be 6, G.
Okay, I guess we have an F, yeah, okay, G. So Cusk issue. Okay. Okay, so anybody, anybody care to move as amended?
I'll move it as amended. I'll add with the addition.
Okay, and it's been seconded, okay?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Okay. Number 3, presentation. We have a presentation from Coldwater Lobster Association. Mr. Bernie Berry, you can step up to the mic. We'll make sure it's on. Which one is it? That one there?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you have some colleagues that are along with you, you can introduce them.
Be Dongemont, you probably all know him, Acadian Fish.
No, they don't.
He rode on day parole. Listen, my name's Bernie Berry, and I'm president of the Coldwater Lobster Association. And we're part of a larger umbrella group, COAC, Clean Oceans Actions Committee. And we're here tonight to see if we can get your support in basically taking the potential lease sites number 3 and number 4 off the table for good. I mean, they're not on there for this year. We'd like to have them removed because they're so close to sensitive areas, sensitive fishing areas, that we think it's very dangerous to start or even think about drilling in them areas. We also would like to talk about Shell having a proper cleanup plan. Basically, the only cleanup plan they have right now that will work, again, to our detriment, is the use of chemicals. The other stuff like booms and skimmers and all that will not work in the environment where the drilling is taking place right now. And none of that stuff works in over 1 meter seas. So I guess we're here just to see if we can get support to see if we can stop lease number 3 and number 4 for now. And because basically we'll show you in the charts in a minute, but number 3, for example, borders LFA number 40, which is a closed area for lobster. It's a lobster nursery. And if drilling was allowed in that area, or number 4, the devastation to the lobsters, the larvae, and all that, it would just devastate the lobster industry, especially because of the tidal action, which again we'll show you on some charts. The tidal action in that area basically brings any kind of pollution or anything up into the western and northwest and stuff like that. It does not go off the Scotian shelf. Where they're drilling now in the Shelburne Basin, that might happen. The tidal action might take it off, and the Gulf Stream might pick up pollution up and take it, well, unfortunately for Europe, over there. But where they're potentially going to ask to drill in future, number 3 and 4, we really want that totally, completely off the table forever. Okay? Like I said, here's a couple of things here. If you notice number 3 and 4, number 3 borders on Browns Bank and the upper end of the Georges Bank moratorium area. And not only does number 3 border on the Buddha Browns, or that's what some people call it, but it also borders on a coral box that is in the northeast channel that's got miles and miles of coral on the bottom, and that area's been closed for, I think, upwards of 10 years, I think, hasn't it, B? And the same thing with number 4, going east, Back Row Bank, same thing there. If you have drilling there, the tidal action will bring it up into the Gulf of Maine, Bay of Fundy, and them areas. Now, 1 and 2, if you notice, they have been leased out. Now, that's our fault. We were kind of asleep at the wheel. And before a gentleman by the name of John Davis brought a lot of this to our attention, them areas, 1 and 2, has been leased out to Statoil for potential exploration somewhere down the road. The only thing I can say for them 2 areas, because of the gyral action on Georges, the tidal action, some of that stuff, and some of the drilling that goes on there, if something did happen, again, you do have the possibility of the tide letting it escape and go off to the east. I think the blue area, again, you can see all the tidal action. This chart here is actually produced by NOAA, I think it is, from the States, showing the different tidal actions and stuff like that, a predominant tidal action. And like I said, I think, for example, Shell puts a lot of weight in the wind direction. Well, the tides are so strong around here, it's not like the Gulf of Mexico, where maybe the wind would be the predominant effect on a spill. Here it would be tides. Actually, the tides, if you had an oil spill in 3 and 4, if you ever had drill in there, there'd be no way to control an oil spill, because the tidal action would disperse a spill or a blowout over such a vast area. There'd be no sense even attempting a cleanup, because you couldn't contain it. The tides would take it that far. Actually, I think in 3 or 4 tides, you could potentially reach the lower end of the Bay of Fundy. And like I said, there's no way to contain it. Okay, so that's one of our biggest things. We really want 3 and 4 taken off. Again, I want to stress it's not on the table right now, but industry, the oil companies, can nominate them sites at any time. And then once it's nominated, it takes 6, 7, 8 months to go through a process through the Petroleum Board to get it approved or not approved or put it out for bids.
Wasn't the Department of Fisheries ever involved with these leases? Weren't they kind of there?
No.
We were not told at all.
No.
The flood tide, like he explained to you, I fished there for 20 odd years, bragging. This is George's Bank right here. And
Right.
that's Browns Bank. This is Area 40, right here. And it connects right on District 34 and 33. This is where all the biggest lobster fishery is going on right now, except 35 going up here. So what we're saying, we're not against drilling, but don't come far enough to the west where if you had a spill, which you will, they always do,
Yeah.
and can't control it in a storm, it would completely pollute the Bay of Fundy and the Gulf of Maine, not only on our side, but the US side. And Obama just signed to ban drilling on their side. Now, can you imagine if we had a spill now, and we not only pollute our side, but we did their side too. They wouldn't buy one lobster from us. The ones that are most vulnerable are the lobster, the scallop, and the halibut.
Yeah.
Their own the bottom fish.
And don't forget, also in that area, it's a prime area for tuna fishing, swordfish longline, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other thing, it's just not the harm it could cause to the stock, whether it be the lobster stock or whatever. A spill like that, because we're so electronically connected today, you simply wouldn't have a market within 48 hours. There'd be nothing left.
A better idea of what we're talking about. This fisherman right here, you know what I'm talking about. Here's George's Bank right here. This is what it looks like. It's a big hole in the Gulf of Maine, the Bay of Fundy. This is where they want to come, right here. The flood tide clearly, it shows one arrow going up. You don't see an arrow going down. So any shipwreck that's ever been, people lost their lives out there that found the wreckage up the Bay of Fundy. So you can imagine how long it would take to completely ruin all these areas if you had an oil spill. That shows you the Bay of Fundy, Gulf of Maine, and it shows you the tide. All we're saying, stay geese are here, right now they're here, and here. But if they come over here, that's it, for sure, it's gonna go up and be a bucket. They started drilling here the other day, they lost control, and they took a bad seed and left half that gear on the bottom already. Shot Canada. This gives you an idea, like, picture sometimes speaks for itself. That's the shark, this is an American shark. The same thing with this stuff.
Like I was mentioning, it's just not the harm to the stock, it'd be the markets would be devastated. A prime example, just about a year ago in Alberta, as we can all recall, 70 years ago or something like that, Alberta had a mad cow scare disease, like the same thing as in England and a couple other places. Well, they got over that, but this, a year ago, there was a cow that was discovered, because they were doing their due diligence, and they found a cow that had mad cow disease. Now, he wasn't even in the system. He wasn't in the slaughterhouses or nothing like that. He was still in the field. The thing being, we're so electronically connected, within 24 hours, the news had got out. South Korea closed the borders to imported Canadian beef. Japan had closed, I think, 50% of certain types of Canadian imported beef and stuff like that. Same thing would happen with lobster. If we ever had an oil spill, the markets would just shut us down. You just would not get that anywhere. There'd be no fishing. It would just be, that'd be all. And some of these charts will show you some of the density of lobster. Example right here, that's off of Brown's Bank and stuff like that. Here's 3 and 4 right here. You know, the potential is right there. You know, and this gives you the distribution of larvae at different depths. You know, as they grow and sink into the water column. The problem is, if you go back to the use of dispersants, what dispersants does, it'll sink the oil down to this level. It'll take it off the surface, it'll hide it, that's all it does. And eventually it'll take it to bottom. But that's all it does, is take it off the surface. It does not clean it up. Because one fact, I think there was only 3%, if I'm right, 3% of the oil that was spilled in the Gulf of Maine was ever recovered. Most of it's still on bottom. With all the effort they had, and they don't have nowhere near the tide or the sea conditions that we do. Like I said, if there's ever an accident, I go back to what happened 3 weeks ago. We just got lucky. Let's be honest. I mean, Shell can call on a lot of experts and all that, but they made some, I think, some errors in judgment. They should have had a proper oil rig as opposed to a ship there. They never calculated how rough it could go there, get in that area. I think there was some experts are saying that boat probably went into a 40-foot trough, which was jamming the pipe, or they call it a riser. It did snap off. The blow-up preventer did work, okay, which basically separated the pipe from the boat. Well, the only problem is the next thing didn't work. They've had flotation devices all up and down that pipe. Most of them's let go, not just the 9 that's being reported. So there's 2,000 meters of pipe on bottom that's probably never going to be recovered, because there's no way they're going to be able to lift that heavy pipe. They're going to have to start all over, I suspect. Now, the thing of it is, if that had happened, they were about 500 meters from, I think, the oil cavity. They hadn't got there yet. Now, if that had happened when they were something like that, when they pierced your oil cavity, who knows what would happen? I mean, we could be having a complete different discussion. We could be talking about raising tumbleweeds, because that's how devastating it could have been if it went the wrong way. So again, we dodged a bullet 3 weeks ago. So, but again, we just want to, again, reiterate how important this is, that them areas are protected. Again, we're looking at, say, the Norway model. Norway is very big into oil, but they also have a thriving fishing industry, and they're taking the same approach that if there's sensitive areas, especially when it comes to fishing, it's just not considered. There's no drilling in the particular areas. It's just no go, okay? And again, we don't want to come off as saying no to everything. We're not. But there's got to be places where oil drilling and fishing is just not compatible. There's got to be either buffer zones or places you just cannot go into, seriously. And even where they are now in the Shelburne Basin, the depth they are and stuff like that, they're at the limit of their capacity. They're actually, depending on what expert you want to talk to, they're maybe even pushing their limit of what they can go. I mean, they're operating at 2,000 meters of water. They got to drill through 4,000 meters of bedrock. They're to their limits, and like I said, they're pushing it. But so again, we need to have these zones taken off, because they're so vitally important to not just fishermen, but the economic viability of Southwest Nova. And so we're looking for your support and a letter to to take to the Canadian Nova Scotia Petroleum Board, basically taking 3 and 4 off the table for now, and maybe in future, anything west of that. Because when you start looking west of that, because you know how things evolve, you're looking at Browns, you're looking at German Bank and stuff like this. I mean, we want to draw a line in the sand or a line in the water if we can, like nothing west of this and stuff like that. If somehow they can get technology, they can drill in 4,000 meters of water in the middle of the Atlantic, go for it, stuff like that. Or even on the Scotian Shelf, as long as the tide is setting stuff off. I mean, that's the dominant thing, here's the tide, which got to be taken into consideration. So that's our presentation, and hopefully we get your support. And any questions?
So,
Go ahead.
Ernie, if I may, what you're looking for is support for removal of the permanent removal of sites 3 and 4 from the
Anything
Offshore
west of
Petroleum Board.
Yes,
They're the ones that control that, right?
yeah. Like the industry will make a nomination to them, and then they'll go through a process
Yeah,
and stuff like this, but it's the Petroleum Board.
Yeah.
That's the regulators. And well, if I can, there's something else that's frustrating. We don't think the Petroleum Board, the Canadian Nova Scotia Petroleum Board, is really being hard enough on putting restrictions here. We go back to what happened in Alaska. Shell was drilling in the Alaskan Gulf, and basically, you probably read it in the newspapers here a while back, these cap and stacks. Well, the American regulators demanded that Shell have a cap and stack in an Alaskan port, so they could be at least on 24-hour call if something happened, to get it out to the site. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be capped in 24 hours, but at least you have the equipment go into the area within 24 hours. Our regulators at first only needed 21 days. Now they've brought it down to 14 days, but all that is the sailing time, because the cap and stack still is in Norway. It's going to take 12 days to bring it across the Atlantic on a proper ship. Then they're probably going to have to put it in Halifax for whatever they need there. So again, we find that our regulators has really taken somewhat of a lax approach, at least from our perspective. I mean, they can play. It's not like Shell's going to pick up and leave just because the Petroleum Board plays hardball here. They're simply not going to do that. But they're not doing that for whatever reason, and we just want them to put more teeth in it.
If I may, Bernie, are you looking for us to send the letter to the Petroleum Board itself, or would you like us to forward the letter to yourself so that you can use it as a case?
The other municipality on board, we used to.
Yeah, now, just as, Lucien, we have, I think it probably come to us, and then we'll present it to the Petroleum Board. Now, we've been in front, there's already some of the municipalities down along Eastern Shore with, I think it's Lunenburg, Shelburne. I've been in front of the Yarmouth County and Yarmouth Town just 2 days ago. A little bit different perspective there. The county, I went in front 3 weeks ago. Everybody was in agreement. But since then, I think they're trying to set up a meeting, and I think you guys will hear about it. They're trying to set up an April 11th meeting with all the councils and the Petroleum Board to get their side. And I think we're going to be there, or at least we're trying to be there at that meeting also. Yarmouth Town Council, again, very supportive. But before they wrote a letter, they wanted to wait and talk to the Petroleum Board. I don't know, I mean, that's fine. We just think everybody's had a chance to talk to the Petroleum Board already. They already done their, dog and pony show coming around. I hate to put it that way, but now they want to, and that's fine. But we're going to need, listen, the municipal units carry a lot of weight in this, because you're speaking for the people, not just the fishermen, all the communities and how it affects that. So you guys carry a lot of weight here. And if we can get your support, that goes a long way trying to stop this. It's one thing, like we've got 10 organizations within this COAC right now, and it is growing. I mean, I think we're waiting for word back from even the First Nations. We've approached them. They're going through consultation and stuff like this. And there's other fishing organizations that's, I think, going to come on board here. I think they're wavering a little bit, see how it all goes and see how big the fight's going to be and stuff like that. So, but.
And also, I met last Thursday with John Davis with Provincial Minister of Fisheries. And what we want to be is part of the process. We want to be part of the fishermen. The fishing industry, we want to be working with the oil industry on what's safe and not safe and how far you can go. So we were never approached that way. I guess we just... Yeah.
I can,
One thing that's just, again, sorry to interrupt, Lucian, but one thing that makes me nervous here is unfortunately, at least from a provincial level, the provincial fishery minister isn't speaking for us. The go-to guy on this file is the energy minister, Michael Sampson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That don't make me feel warm and fuzzy, okay? It just seems like we're left out in the cold again. We're not being represented. And so,
if I may, I can understand, the other municipal units, want to, at least get the petroleum side, but, if I may, I look around at the municipality of Argyle and I see in our logo a fishing boat and I see a cod behind, our warden here up on the wall, and it really makes me think that without our fishery, we're not very much here in the municipality of Argyle, so, I can fully understand where you're coming from, your standpoint. On a personal level, I mean, oil is a necessity, and of course, I'm not opposed to drilling, but proper process to remedy any situation, and then with the tidal action here, this is no secret. This has been known for a while. The tidal action in this area is beneficial on the lobster side. It certainly does help, but it will bring anything that's happening in that area up into our coast. And that would be extremely detrimental, I think. So I would be ready to make a decision this evening whether or not that's appropriate or not. Can that be added to the agenda? Or I would like to see that.
Can be
You
added.
can do it now. It's on the agenda right
Just-
now.
Well, I suppose. I didn't realize during a presentation we were permitted to.
And
we're
also, they're gonna
permitted.
understand,
Yeah.
people are gonna understand, the government gonna understand, we're not against all drilling, it's
Yeah.
where.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
just to inform council as well, we've been approached by Rob Frost with it, which is the new CEO for for Municipality of Barrington. And he also got a presentation by Bernie. And they are willing to coordinate, I guess, a possible resolution to the UNSM or letter on behalf of neighboring municipal units if they wish to get together. So that is also an option
Okay.
to you.
So a joint type.
Correct.
All right.
That's an option, yeah.
Councilor Surratt, you had a question?
Comment and a couple of comments. I read the report that you sent out. It's very well done. It's opened my eyes a lot of stuff that I didn't know, especially about these dispersants. What I liked also about the report that you put in, you put in facts. It's not just I think and I know. You've contacted some very people that are very informed and had their opinions, and they're publicized a lot of this stuff. So that made me say to myself, these guys have done their homework. They've done their homework, and this is just logical. And certainly I have no problem to, and I was thinking of, well, maybe I should hear the other side of the story. But after having read all of this, it's a no-brainer, and I'm certainly going to support whatever motion is made.
Thank you. From New Brunswick to PEI, take the lobster fishery out of the equation, we might as well all go.
yeah.
Are you on the board, you said?
Which board?
Are you on the board?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just wondering.
Yes, I am. I can't see that's a conflict of
No,
interest.
just wondering.
No, but yes, I am.
Okay. So you're gonna make a motion,
Yes, I
Councilor
will.
LeBlanc?
It's how to word this. I'd like to make a motion that we support the cause that's presented here today, be it in the form of a letter from the municipality of Argyle or a joint support letter with other neighboring municipalities if there's a willingness. I guess that's the motion.
I'll second that.
Great.
I think, can we do both?
Certainly.
Yeah,
So
we can do both.
Either or.
Exactly.
You can do both.
Yeah,
Sorry, or both, yes.
yes.
Okay. You've all heard the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good job,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
You.
Yep,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, we'll move on to number 4, which is business arising from the minutes. Chris, do we have anything from the?
Just those 2 points that are still on the report, municipal building. We've done some more public consultations. We're doing our last meeting on Thursday night in Kentville. So we've had some good discussions with the people who have participated. And our survey responses have been a bit stagnant. They're pretty well at the same amount as they used to be with the same percentages. So once all those consultations will be over, we will be drafting a report that will bring, it should be by the end of April. Yeah.
Okay.
And the second one is just the Hipson Bridge that we're still waiting the engineer to engage in the report to see, assess the bridge, which will hopefully be done in April or May.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to number 5, which is the financial report, and I think that one is yours, Marcia.
All right, so enclosed is the final financial report as at February 29th, 2016, showing an estimated surplus of $187,492. If we look on page 1 under the revenues, the only major variance that we have between budget to actual is the line item of change of use tax, which is the D-transfer tax, showing showing a surplus of just over $30,000. As stated previously, we always tend to budget kind of conservatively on this one, as it is always unknown. The only other there are also some surpluses in extraordinary revenues and senior safety. This is mainly generated from various recreation programs and day camp. If we look on page 2 at the expenditures, a little over halfway down the page, you'll see under public health services showing a surplus of just over $100,000. This surplus is generated by 2 line items: the doctor recruitment and the family residency grant that we were going to give to Southwest Health that we did not have to give. So if you consider the $30,000 from the D-transfer tax in revenues and public health services alone, these 2 make up over $130,000 of our surplus out of the $187,000.
Okay.
The remaining surplus is basically due to various reasons. There's some items that have been purchased in March that aren't showing on this report as yet. Some projects received funding after the budget was set, and other line items, like property inspection, where the maintenance coordinator was hired at a later date than anticipated. Mostly everything else other than those 2 line items are mostly onto budget.
Okay.
So if there are any other questions, it's basically that.
Any questions? No? Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor Surratt. Sorry, Councilor Dawson.
Just a quick, Marcia, it was probably said at a previous meeting, but I forget now. On page 2, the last line, volunteer banquet, regional library, other. We're over budget by 15,000.
Yep.
And was that due to something at the library? Was it regional library?
That's actually, I'm not sure why it says just regional library. That's the Mariner Center. We had to give a little bit extra to the Mariner Center this year.
That's what that is. Okay.
The library is actually right on par.
Okay, very good,
The
thank you.
Mariner Center, I should probably look over some of these wordings of the
Very good.
The report.
That's good, no, that's great, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Dawson.
Yeah, I just, on the revenue, penalties on interest on taxis, penalties. So you guys actually budget that you're gonna you making money off of penalties and interest? And if I see it's 6,200, less than what you expected, am I reading that right?
What happened there is, our bank charges and interest changed after the budget was set. So in June, we had to sign a new contract with the bank, and some of the interest rates have changed. So that's why that one's showing at a deficit. So this year, it should be regulated.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Any more questions? Don't see any.
I'll move the acceptance of the.
Move
financial
to
report.
accept the financial report as presented. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Thank you, Marcia. All right, move on to number 6, other business and for decision. The first one is 6A. Let me just get my computer back up to speed here. The Wedgeport wastewater systems project. evaluation of consultants' engineering proposals. I think you've all read it. I'll let Chris take care of this one.
So this is the evaluation report by Mike Williams, who is the engineer who was evaluating the proposals for the pre-design of the Wedgeport wastewater system. So you'll see that we received two proposals, one from CBCL Limited and the other from Able Engineering Services. You'll see his evaluation of the technical side of the proposal as well as of the financial or costing side of it, and he combined both of them to come to a recommendation of Able Engineering Services as the recommended engineer to conduct the pre-design or preliminary design of phase of the project. So you will see at the end of his recommendation, he does state that subsequent project phases could be negotiated with Able, but could also go to an RFP if needed. So this is simply for the pre-design portion of that project.
Okay. Councillor Muse.
Looking at the figures here from two different engineering
Yeah.
firms, with such a difference,
Uh-huh.
It's
There is an answer.
That's a
Okay.
very good question. The Able Engineering Services was the engineering firm that did the project in Richemont, which is where we got the idea to do this type of project.
Okay.
So most of their preliminary work is
Already done.
assumingly already done.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Sometimes it
No,
kind of makes you wonder why, what's missing here.
It's a great question, and obviously that was taken into consideration
Okay,
by Mike, but that is the overwhelming reason for that.
good. Yep.
Okay. Councillor LeBlanc.
Deputy Clerk, we're looking for what type of, are you looking this evening for a decision on which firm we would use?
That's correct.
Okay. I've been monitoring this quite closely, evidently, because it impacts the Wedgeport area quite a bit. Given the assessment done by Michael Williams and the difference in figures, I would like to make the motion that we go ahead with ABLE for the slipping my mind here. You said it earlier. The
So it'd be the pre-design
pre-design
phase
okay.
of the project.
phase of
Yep.
the Wedgeport wastewater project.
Okay, it's been moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Right. We'll move to 6B, Municipal Government Act Review Update. 33 pages. Mostly wording amendments, I do believe.
That's correct. So the attachment that is on the agenda is housekeeping, for lack of a better word, amendments to the MGA. So you are mostly all aware that there is a review ongoing on the MGA with different sections each being reviewed by a different group of people. Alain is actually working on the financial review of the financial sections of the MGA. We've had some talk around the fire services review going on. So this is the initial recommendations by the committee based on suggestions that they received. These are only wording amendments and not any major concept amendments. So you'll see that they have provided this as a first step, and then they will later on provide any amendments that would be done to each section at a later date. They do give a date or deadline of June 30th to provide comments. It is our recommendation that you do not need to provide comments, as they are simply housekeeping amendments and don't have any large effect on the MGA.
Okay. So we're looking just for a motion to accept.
Yep, you can, and maybe state that you do not wish to provide any comments,
Okay.
if that is the wish.
If that's
Council.
the wish of council. Okay. Councillor Surratt.
I'd like to move that we approve the report as presented and the review update as presented,
Okay, it's been moved.
with no amendments.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any more questions? Councilor Muse, you seem like you want to say something. Go ahead.
So really what we're approving is just that they're saying what they're going to change.
Yeah.
Does that makes it, like, okay, you said it just a few changes in the wording. So what's to come next? Like, the wording is changed, what are they gonna do next? What are we're approving the MGA without those words is what we're doing for this, at this point?
Correct. So to give you an example, in one section it says, has been approved by the Minister of Transportation and Public Works. They changed it to Minister responsible for provincial highways. So they've just changed the wording to make it more, I guess, longer term document rather than being so specific. And then they have provided these amendments to each municipal unit to provide their comments, whether or not they have any changes to make. So I guess it's just one of their steps in their review. And then once the amendments are made, then they will go on to the actual concept changes of the MGA or suggestions.
Okay,
of
so
the MGA.
we have to move to approve this. We approve it doesn't mean it's going to be approved if other.
That's correct.
If other
It's
units
sim-
don't. So that's why I'm wondering if we have to approve this or if they're just looking for comments. You know, like I didn't know, I thought maybe we didn't have to approve anything here. All they were looking for was comments
Right.
too.
You can
And if
accept, that's right, you can accept the amendments and provide no comments as you accept the
Okay.
amendments. You don't have to technically
Okay.
approve
Yeah,
the amendments because that'll be
Approval is
done.
not the right word.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be done at a higher level,
exactly.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can't approve it that all of a sudden
That's
it's,
right.
That's right.
it's a go.
Sorry,
We're
I
just
misunderstood.
approving that we're okay as a municipality with what it's saying.
That's right.
Okay.
Accepted as presented.
As
Yeah.
presented here,
Yeah.
we accept
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
okay. So, Councilor Muse, you're clear?
That's clear.
Okay,
Good.
great.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so you've all heard the motion. All those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Okay, we'll go down to that was 6B. 6C, letter of support Pubnico Trail Association, that's mine. The Pubnico Point Trail Association, they have a meeting with OCOA on Tuesday, and what they were looking for is a letter of support to bring to OCOA for some more funding. In the past, we've had I would say, a really good partnership between the municipality and the trail and the community of, in West Pubnico. And basically just a letter of support, maybe stating, how much financial help that we, received from the municipality over the years, and just a letter of support so that they can bring that to OCOA, because OCOA, the feds, they like to see partnerships, they like to see, leveraging, so that's what I'm looking for. But I can't make a motion because I'm chair.
I spoke to Felton
Felton?
the other day, same day, I think, maybe that you did,
Okay.
and he said, actually, we did give him a letter last year sometimes for the Nova Scotia, for the provincial government for a
Provincial,
grant. He said, could be the same letter with a different date on it, because it's going to OCOA, this one.
Yeah.
So, something in that line.
Okay, Councilor Surratt?
The motion doesn't have to say a financial number, it's just a support.
Yeah.
It's not saying that we're gonna
No,
give
no,
the
no.
money.
The only numbers may be what the municipality has given in the past, just to
Great.
show that the municipality's been involved and, but no,
Great.
yeah.
They,
I'm all for
I
it.
think they will add that in their request,
Yeah.
because they have
Mm-hmm.
in kind and they have
Yeah.
the grants that we have given.
And the
Yeah.
province and so. Okay, so you,
Also move that we
Okay.
give them the letter of support.
so moved and seconded, all those in favor?
My,
Contrary? Carried. Okay. All right, we move on to 6D, letter of support, Yarmouth County Trail Development Association. Okay, if you all had a chance to read this one. To me, when I first read it, I was kind of, trying to figure out exactly what they wanted. I guess they want permission to be able to have ATVs, all-terrain vehicles, or off-highway vehicles in the town on Water Street. To me, my first initial reaction was, well, the municipality of Argyle doesn't have any jurisdiction there. So anyway, that's my take on, I don't know what other people have, anyway, we'll open it for discussion.
Have they tried that already? To get that approved or something?
Yes.
Been tried already?
Okay,
That's been in discussion before.
Council, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, Councilor Buse, go ahead. I think you seem
Yeah,
to know something
I-
about it, so.
I kind of agree with Deputy Warden on that, I don't know, I mean, that's a public street. It could be a very busy street. I think having road vehicles on that street would be kind of dangerous. And I don't think we have the jurisdiction to even support that, like, I think it's up to the
We
town.
don't have, you don't, I tend to agree with you, that we don't, they're not looking for, we're not gonna make a decision
No.
except send a letter
That's right.
requesting, I mean,
Yeah, well,
jurisdiction has nothing to do with it. with
No,
us.
but they're looking for a letter of support from us,
A
to say
support,
that
yeah.
we would support that. And personally, myself, as an individual, I don't think that I could support that myself, but that's just my feeling.
Okay, Councilor LeBlanc.
I guess it goes to show that's why we have 9 councillors and not 1. I would have to disagree with Councillor Muse. I see, just from my observation locally in the area, many dollars being spent in the sport, or not the sport, in the hobby of ATVs, and I see the trails being used more and more each year. And amongst the ATV world, having the South Shore Trail and the North Shore Trail not being connected poses a big transportation issue for ATVs trying to get from one place to another. So I can certainly respect the issues with having ATVs in downtown Yarmouth, and of course it's not our jurisdiction. We are not councillors in the town of Yarmouth. However, I think the message he sends in the letter saying that we are losing some dollars in our area for the fact that this cannot happen, I would have to agree there. So if we were to write a letter to the town requesting that they at least look into this, I would have to be in support.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson.
And I'm in agreement with Lucien, because there's nothing more frustrating when you go to Yarmouth on your ATV and you get to the end of the line, you've just got to turn around, come back, you can't even get a coffee. At least come in the north way, you can go to the bus or the old train station there, Tim Hortons, and get coffee and turn around and go back, or something to eat. But I mean, it's done in other towns. I mean, there'd be strict regulations, and the town of Yarmouth can't decide this. They got to ask Department of Transportation or whoever to allow this. But there would have to be there would be strict operations, especially speed, and the bikes would have to be registered bikes and helmets, the whole 9 yards. But I think there's a way it can be done instead of just point blank saying no to it. We can't decide to do it. The town of Yarmouth can't decide to do it. The Trail Association's asking us for a letter of support to ask the town to study this issue further. That's all I see this is asking for. That's the way I see it. So I'm willing to support this, and I'm willing to make a motion that we do send a letter of support to the president and let him run with it from there. And however they decide they're gonna do this, it may be a special part of Water Street marked out that you've gotta stay on a certain line, or there's probably ways it can be done. It's been done in other towns, so I'm making a motion that we send a letter of support.
I will second it, and I will also mention that it is done in other towns in the province of Nova Scotia. It's very popular in the United States. Certain streets, of course, they can't be anywhere. They must stay on the one connecting street and whatnot. And although every state's different, they must obey certain traffic laws and whatnot. So it's very possible. It's not for us to decide, but I am definitely seconding the motion to at least support it.
Okay, Councillor Surratt, so that's been moved and seconded.
Certainly, just to add on, I've read the letter a couple of times, and again, to help our tourism sector, these people that are riding these bikes and going into Yarmouth, you never know, they might stop at a garage in your local area or whatever. I certainly support the motion, anything that can bring business, and we're just asking the town to, hey, come on, let's look at this again, let's see what they can do. So I certainly support that.
Okay. All right, so anybody else?
Question?
All those in favor? Contrary? Okay. Motion carried. Okay, 6E, proposed marketing incentive, airport passenger service. I'll give this one to Chris. Seems to know what's going on there.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. You will find on the agenda, which was a bit of a late addition yesterday, so I sent it to you by email just to make sure you all got it. As you are aware, Alain has been working with the WREN and the airport on assessing or evaluating a scheduled passenger service with consultants, Intervistas. So they have done their work, data mining work on their behalf to try and see the viability of having a passenger service at the airport. Obviously, that is extremely important for peak ACAP funding for capital improvements at the airport. That's one of their requirements or criterias. So they did their work and they brought a recommendation of 2 round trips to Halifax daily based on the current demand that they could see. So they recommended approaching Air Canada with the information as they felt that they would be in the best position to offer the service that would be needed. So as part of the pitch to Air Canada, there's often a community incentive piece to it. The incentives are there's usually 2 different types of incentives. The first is marketing support. So that comes from the community itself, which is presented to you here, and that's why it's brought to the councils as for decision. And the other is reduced landing fees, which will be a decision that will be made by the airport itself at their board level. So the request that is being presented to you tonight is not a financial number request or decision. It's solely the concept of participating in the marketing and promotion incentive to bring it to the pitch. So Alain has provided you, I guess, an example of what a budget for this type of incentive could be. He based it on over 3 years with a financial contribution of $12,000 from each municipal unit, $4,500 from the marketing levy, some in-kind promotion, which he listed on the bottom, and a COA, which would match the amount, which would give you a general idea of what this type of marketing incentive could look like. So as I explained, based on the need for this type of service to access ACAP funding for a regional asset of the airport, and it being a regional priority or asset priority that was established in your joint council meetings, the CEO and we recommend that you consider an investment in local marketing promotion as an incentive to attract Air Canada. So the suggested motion is provided there for you. I'd be more than happy to try and answer any questions or take comments that you may have.
Councillor Surratt?
I realize that it is a priority of the 3 councils. We met together a few months ago, and you know, it was the airport was one of the priorities. I have some questions that I'm not sure if I can be answered here or not. We provided in 2015, 2016, $256,000 to the airport. I took that off our statement that Marcia provided. And that's what we provided this year to the airport. 2016, 2017, we don't know yet what it's going to be. I'm not at all in favor of, not at all in favor of there's no amount or to cap an amount in a motion. Because at a future date, and I know what's going to happen at a future date, you approved the motion and you said you'd support this, here's the amount, blah, blah, blah. I certainly would want some kind of a number put in there, because what was put here is just an example. This is totally not what it is, I'm sure.
Correct.
This is just an example, so where we have like a blank check is what we'd be given, as far as I'm concerned, when we're looking at this. I would certainly like to see in a motion an amount, a capped amount, in a motion, I would also like to see that it says, upon receiving a COA money. It should be in that motion also. And also in the motion, it should say, as far as I'm, depending on what the other councillors think, pending on the other two units approval. Should be in that motion. You know, that should be in that motion also. I would also like to say that, I don't know where this is going, I know we have to start somewhere with this, but I was looking back at 2009, they were charging $399 plus tax to go to Halifax. It was a Starlink. I went online and checked it out. $399 plus tax to go to Halifax. Most people can drive and come back for way less than that, even if you have your parking fees. You can go to hotels and stay at a hotel and get your parking free. So, you know, for $70, you can probably go up there and back. I don't know where this is going. I don't know how far, you know, how far Air Canada would go, how long they would stay. It's up in the air. But where we've recognized it as a priority, I certainly would support it but I'm very leery on it, where we've got this amount of money invested already. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Councillor LeBlanc.
I think Councillor Surratt raises great concerns, but I think that's the realistic concern in any decision like this. I know the airport is surrounded at our council table with some uncertainty and some mixed emotions, but my personal feeling in the last 6 months to a year here, there's been more positive things potentially happening at the airport than I've seen since I've been elected councillor, and I think this is an exciting prospect, to say the least. So I would support it. Like Councillor Surratt, I mean, of course, a number would have been more comfortable, but we did see the projected numbers. I can't see it being drastically different than what was projected by our CAO. So I'm willing to make the suggested motion and leave it as is, in light of flexibility for our CAO and for the WREN to be able to negotiate such a prospect like we see here with passenger service. So I'm going to go ahead and make that motion.
Okay. Are you gonna read it, or? It says right there.
Yes, I'll make the motion that we approve in principle a marketing and promotion incentive to support our case to restore scheduled passenger service to the area. The amount once determined shall be considered in next year's budget.
Okay, so.
I'll second the motion. Want some discussions.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Surratt again.
I would support a motion if we have, upon receiving a COA money and pending on the other two units approval. Would you?
No, but I think the suggested motion is just in principle. So, I mean, it's just in principle. That there's no, you know, it doesn't tie us to any money amount. There's, you know, that's for us to decide when we deliberate for the 2016-17.
My concern was not the money amount. I just said that, you know, upon receiving a COA money, because in other words, so if it doesn't receive a COA money, then we're approving the promotional amount. Then without the 35,000, let's say you were using the example, then our share would be more than the 6,000. Then, or the 12,000, then we're looking to add to the money that the COA would be matching. So I certainly want that there. So we're not tied in just to putting in money for the COA if they're not accepting. That's my concern.
Yeah. Okay.
And the motion as worded as it is there doesn't bind you to any financial decision or even going ahead depending on the factors that would come in. It's simply to get an idea of, in principle, of everyone's interest based on having it included in the pitch to Air Canada. So I can understand definitely what you're saying around making sure that it doesn't bind you to any, especially financial decision, but just approving it in principle will allow it to see how it would be once we get to budget deliberations. And then that's where the actual numbers and decisions would be made around the marketing promotion incentive, would be at that time.
But the amounts once determined shall be considered in budget deliberations, so that
Right.
would be brought to council for us to vote back on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you,
right.
that's right, you would consider it
Yeah. And the-
again at that point, once we
and
would
the
get a better
amount could be
idea.
zero if that's what we decide.
It could be potentially.
Right. So, you
Does
comf-
that,
Is that clear?
Yeah.
does that help? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Certainly live with that, yeah.
Okay. So it's moved by Councillor LeBlanc and seconded by Warden Donslow, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, you've all heard the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Okay. So we'll go to 6F, returning officer appointment.
So this was a late addition, and it was my fault.
on my
And it was
paper.
because I forgot about it. But if you do recall, we sent you an email recommending an appointment of a returning officer on March 15th, and we just simply would like to ratify that recommendation here at the council table. That's correct. So I apologize for the late addition.
Prove it in email, yeah.
That's correct.
Perfect.
Okay. I should probably say who it would be. Yeah, that would be, yes.
I was just gonna say. should
So
be-
after we did go to an interview process and we did get 2 applicants, and after reviewing the applicants, which were both very good, we do recommend Sandra Reed as the returning officer for the election, 2016 election.
Okay. So moved by Councillor Muse, seconded by Councillor Albright. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll move to 6G, which is the Cusk issue, which was brought up by Councillor LeBlanc. Go ahead.
All right.
All right. Essentially, to give you a quick background, a cuss is a full fin fish that's found in our waters here off of southwest Nova Scotia. They're not found typically everywhere. Cuss, like many other species, are location based on cycle of life, be it that there's a food fish or spawning grounds or something like that. So the issue at hand is that Cusk was listed in 2012 by Cosawix. Pardon the abbreviation, the acronym. It's Committee of. Oh dear, I can't even remember it. It's so long. But anyway, essentially, it's a subcommittee of the federal government. It's not DFO itself. It's a different entity, smaller, essentially to monitor wildlife species and whether or not they're at risk. So it was listed in 2012 as being at risk by Cosawix, but it was not listed by DFO, which Cosawix is obviously pressing the matter with DFO to have DFO list the Cusk as an endangered fish. And along with their push to further their cause is a bunch of suggested measures throughout southwestern Nova Scotia's fishery to remedy the situation. So a lot of those remedies are affecting the lobster fishery, which is of course our economical driver here. So in southwestern Nova Scotia. So there's a major pushback from the lobster fishery, as in many different issues, to not have the Cusk listed as an endangered species by DFO. And it's not simply by an unwillingness from lobster fishermen. There's an actual theory there, and one of those, it's been really witnessed firsthand here why that shouldn't happen in southwestern Nova Scotia. Many years ago, when the surveys for Cusk were being assessed as to where the stocks were, it's felt by most people in this area that the assessments were, the judgment was spoiled because a lot of the Cusk surveys were done by the Alfred Needler, which is a federal science fish dragging vessel, which is an incorrect method to assess the cuss stocks, because if you have Googled a picture of a cuss, it's a full fin fish, and typically full fin fish are too quick for trawl gear. So on a vessel like the Alpha Needler, that is the type of fishing you would use to catch haddock and cod, which is fine. But to use it to assess cuss was deemed ineffective by fishermen because they're too fast. They don't get caught up by the net. So if the net can't catch the cuss, the scientists are being wrongly fooled that the cuss aren't there, where in reality they're a lot quicker. A lot of the cuss surveys were done also that were felt in incorrect areas. Actually, by coincidence, the presentation we had here this evening, the closed lobster fishing grounds of Browns Bank, the shallow waters of Browns Bank, which is District 40, Lobster Fishing District 40, which is a closed area, is a very populated area for cuss. So a hook and line fishery would have been more effective in that sense. Also, the other method that they're using to assess where the cuss stocks were was logbook detail from fish trawlers from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. The problem with that was, I won't get into the logistics of it, but it benefited financially the fish plants and fishermen to report landings. I won't get into why, but it was beneficial economically for them to report false landings of cuss. They would land maybe boxes and boxes and boxes of haddock, cover them with a few cuss on top to make it look like cuss, and send it through the fish plant as cuss through the logbooks, etc., to make more money, which is of course illegal, but that's not the issue at hand. So the argument being is that the Coswicks group feels like the cuss was here, and now it's here, whereas in reality, most fishermen that actually see what's going on in the ocean feel it's more, the cuss were never as high as they thought because it was false reportings. So they weren't really as high as they thought, and definitely there's not much of an issue now as they believe it is, because it's very tough to predict with a fish trawler how many cuss are really at the bottom of the ocean. So before DFO accepts Coswick's proposals, which are very drastically affecting the fisheries around here, being lobster or longline, we ask that, I guess, the fishermen in the area are asking that better science. They're not throwing it out. If there's a case, fishermen don't want to see an endangered species. They just don't want to see the detriment of another fishery because of irregular and incorrect science. So I guess the message from fishermen is hold on here, slow down. Some of the projected measures would be to reduce the trap limit for lobster fishermen, which is quite silly because the amount of cuss that a lobster fisherman catches in a trap, it's very silly to think that reducing the traps on the bottom would have an effect on the cuss stocks, as well as closing a portion of LFA 34 down to fixed gear fishery, which would send the fishermen elsewhere, which would congest the fishermen, which again is affecting stocks of other species. So this is actually very silly. A lot of people are watching this very closely. So I guess trying to think of what I'm really asking for. I guess that I'm asking that the municipality take a stance here with cold. Actually, maybe I'll hand the floor to Warden Dartmouth. The ask that came to council was what exactly?
Well, a letter to the federal fisheries minister.
Right.
He has the last say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the wording is, I think it's already on the endangered species, but not at risk.
Is that the wording?
I'm not sure, but if it goes at risk,
Or is
if
it
they
a
accept
species,
that,
or is it a species at risk
species at risk.
that they don't want to put it on the endangered, or we don't want it to be?
Sorry, yes, I may have been using the wrong terminology there. Sorry.
But that would trigger
Of course.
a whole lot of,
Exactly. I may have jumbled the words
But
there.
anyway-
Essentially, they're risk here, but we don't want it to go to the next level.
the wording is in the presentation
Correct.
anyway.
Correct.
That I got from Inshore Fisheries,
Yes.
yeah.
We could assess the presentation, make a letter, and then look it
yeah.
over.
And there's a name of a gentleman, I can't remember the name, but it's in that presentation too, and, Sean said if you want a letter, wording for the letter.
Right.
He would gladly do it for us and whatever.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would make that motion, we send the letter.
And I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Donaldson,
Can we have the letter brought to the next council meeting
Thank
for approval to see exactly what it says before
Yeah,
we
yeah,
send it
yeah.
off?
Yeah.
So that'll be in a couple of weeks. Sean should have time enough to put it together by then.
Not Sean, no, he's away right now, but this gentleman, I
Chris.
can't remember his
Yeah.
name, but it's in the package that
Yeah.
we got.
So we'll know what we're actually approving.
That's right.
And I think Lucien was saying that they're at risk now, but they're not on the endangered species. And a dragger has a hard job catching cusk, not for only the simple fact that they're fast swimmers but
Go
they,
through the mesh.
they, go through the mesh and they primarily live on rocky bottom, so draggers don't even go there.
That's another great point.
Yeah, that's right,
Sure.
yeah.
okay, so the motion that we're making now is,
So just to clarify, I did look up the presentation that was sent, and it says they're currently doing consultations on whether cusk should be added to the list of wildlife species at risk as an endangered species. So it's the species at risk list, and they would list them under the endangered species.
Yeah.
So that was what the wording, I guess,
Yeah,
that's used.
okay,
You
yeah.
can understand my confusion.
Yeah.
And me too, I had it the other way around, I
Yeah.
think,
So
but anyway,
if you would like, we could prepare a letter
yeah.
that could be brought to you for approval afterwards. We can do it that way. And as we've seen with the presentation on the oil and gas exploration, sometimes putting together municipal units as well with the kind of
Yeah.
the same idea does have sometimes a bigger impact or a different impact than just one municipal unit. So that's also an option for
Yeah.
you.
okay.
Uh,
So the
Do you
mo-
want- you want the letter to come to council, or do you want to just email it and we can approve it since we have the motion made? It doesn't matter, we can wait, you know.
I would prefer to have the letter being sent here so we can have a look at it before we send anything. I wish we had some kind of a presentation, because we had some innuendo, not to, but you said you see about cusk on top of haddock, or haddock on top of cusk. That's what they said, this is what this one said, so I wish we would have had a presentation,
Well-
or some information sent to us, so we could have read it prior to the meeting.
Basically, the message you
know,
should
'cause
take.
I'm
Yeah.
hearing from you, but I don't know the
Doesn't-
other side.
If
With
we
the
did, we
story.
did send information, in February, just with a quick write-up, and there was a lot of information, and it wasn't in a presentation form, so what we can do is resend that information, and then maybe, be able to,
The message you should take home, Councillor Surratt, is that the science was flawed, be it from one way or another. It's simple that just the science is not strong enough to take such a drastic measure. So that's, if you had to take one message home, that would be it.
Okay.
Good, perfect.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor, and I'm just trying to figure out if we should vote on that motion, and then we're gonna bring the letter back to be voted on again. Is that how it's gonna work?
it depends on.
Approve the letter.
Just approved at the next meeting.
Okay. All right, so the motion is what? I guess I'm just a little confused.
Councillor Dawson.
To send the letter,
Just to send a letter?
Actually, the warden made it.
Okay,
to send a letter to Department of Fisheries,
okay,
Minister of Fisheries.
all right,
And the only
Federal.
issue I brought up, we're gonna have somebody else write this letter for us.
yeah,
So I just
We'd like to see it.
That's all.
yeah, oh, okay,
Well, yeah. you
yeah,
can
okay,
Makes
Write it
sense.
for us,
Yeah.
or give us some,
yeah, okay. And it's been seconded by.
Good idea.
Lucia, yeah. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you. Okay, number 7, correspondence and for information. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 issues here. I don't know if usually we just, if there's something that's comes up, we can talk about. I know that D, Housing Nova Scotia Board vacancy, I think we have a vacancy still on that one, and
Yeah.
also where the Mariner Center.
Yes.
And I think you were talking about what we were planning on doing, what staff was planning on doing. Go ahead.
That's right. So, Housing Nova Scotia, unfortunately, we've had some trouble filling that board vacancy. We've advertised it twice since the vacancy was made aware of it to us. We are going to advertise it again, and this time with the board vacancy at the Mariner Center as well, since we had one of our members step down due to personal reasons. So hopefully we'll be able to fill both of those vacancies. So I just wanted to touch on that, since it seems like it had been 3 years since we paid attention to it, but really we're just having trouble filling it.
Okay. All right, was there anything else in correspondence then for information that people,
Yes, I do have something.
go ahead.
To Marcia, I don't know if she can answer, it was on a letter from the RCMP about the budgeting, and I've been following this for a while. Do you have any kind of a number that we could be looking at in Municipality of Argyle in policing, that 3.9%, is it 6,000, 8,000? I think it's something like 6,300 could be for Argyle. Is there more than that, or maybe you don't have info on that?
Well, you just go by the letter.
Yeah, it says,
If you just give me a moment.
I'll just read, your municipality cost is expected to be approximately $6,386 in 2016-17. I'm wondering, there was also that there was the DNA stuff and stuff like that that is gonna be shared, so I don't know if there's more than the 6,300 or if that was the total amount, or maybe you're not sure yourself. It's 3.9% more.
It's 3.9%, so basically what I do in the actual policing, like
Yes.
RCMP costs, is I take whatever was budgeted this year that we're just finishing this week, and I add that 3.9.
Yeah.
DNA is always one that basically it's kind of on the fence, you never know, like,
Which one's
we
the-
basically get the bill and that's
That's-
what it is.
Okay, right.
As far as anything else, there's nothing that I'm aware of.
Good to see. Good, that's okay.
But if you wanna know like what line, what the RCMP is going to cost next year, like the RCMP line itself.
That's fine, I think you've answered, I guess the DNA wasn't sure. They gave us a firm number of 6,300, but I wondered if the DNA, if that's another 3.9%, or if it's,
No,
okay,
that's usually what they say. That's-
Okay. Thank you, no, that's great, thank you.
All right. So anything else? Nope. All right, number 8, financial requests. We have a district community grant, I think it's mine. There's the letter, I gave it to you, Chris, but I'd take it back for a second. It's Dennis Point Harbor Authority.
Somewhere here.
Disappearing Act.
It is.
What,
Oh, here it is.
specify what they
Yeah.
want to use?
Yeah. So district community grant, dear Mr. D'Entremont, the Harbor Authority of Dennis Point is a non-profit body governed by small craft harbors, which is part of the Department of Fisheries and Ocean. The wharf at Dennis Point has had funding for a beautiful deck that we utilize for special events, functions, and mostly for tourists. We received some funding for the structure from the municipality in the past, and we thank you very much. The structure requires extra bracing on the bottom to make it more sturdy. We are asking you as our counselor for a grant of $500 to help with the cost of the wood required to brace the structure. Your help would greatly be appreciated. Sincerely, Floyd D'Entremont, the harbor master. So, and I can't make that a motion.
So really that, what they're looking to add or add to the, yeah.
To the deck.
The deck, the structure.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's really, I guess, more for tourism than anything else. It's not for the fishermen.
Yeah, well, they've had
I was just gonna ask you that.
some fundraisers there sometimes,
Yeah, yeah.
for certain groups, but not for the fishermen, though.
No, that's right, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept the grant request.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded, moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Albright.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried, thank you. All right, number 9, notice of motion. Anybody have a notice of motion? No? Question period, do we have any questions? No? Anybody care to adjourn?
We adjourn.
There you go.
Thank you. Chris, we're gonna have you get more.